I got to the Twilight Dungeon, and for whatever reason, I stopped playing it again there, and picked it back up again another 2 years later, and finally finished it. Wind Waker was a bit different. There was the initial time when I just didn't know what to do in Forsaken Fortress, and then after that I got where I was stuck in the Forest Temple. That was a long time. That was like 2 years where I was stuck in the Forest Temple. And then, after the Forest Temple was smooth sailing, get it, pun, Wind Waker, smooth sailing.
Oh, snap. Alright.
Anyways, it was smooth sailing until, I want to say, right towards the end. And I might have even gone all the way to Ganon's Castle, and then I just couldn't figure out what to do in Ganon's Castle. And surprisingly enough, even though I looked things up on Game FAQs all the time as a kid, I never bothered. Twilight Princess, I tried my damnedest to get through that temple. It was the boss. It was the frickin'... worm boss.
You got stuck on that boss.
Yeah, I got stuck on that boss for like 2 years, and then I finally beat it one night. And then my dad took my video games away because I yelled about it. I was like, "Yeah, I beat it!" And he was like, "You're obsessed with that game."
Jesus.
I hadn't even played Twilight. I literally, that was the first time I had played Twilight Princess in
my God.
like months. And he was like, "You're obsessed with that game."
Oh my fucking God. That's actually really ridiculous. Twilight Princess is kind of similar, but for some reason, Twilight Princess was like... It was similar for me in the sense that I would actually make progress, get stuck, make progress, get stuck, make progress, and like that happened over the course of like 4 years for me. I got it in like 4th grade. I don't think I ended up beating it until like, 4 years isn't an exaggeration. Like 2. But like I didn't end up beating it until I think 6th grade.
Yeah.
You actually helped me beat it because there was this one part, I think it was the final castle. It was Ganon's castle. I was stuck right before that. I didn't know where to go.
Yeah.
And you told me where to go and like how to do it.
I do remember I beat both the
you actually did that with 2 games. You did that with both Twilight Princess and Metroid Prime 3. Really? You helped me beat Metroid Prime 3 because I was just I couldn't be asked to look for those energy cells. I just wasn't fucking happening.
I do remember that now that you mention it.
But yeah, you helped me find the last 2.
Wind Waker, I didn't help you beat Wind Waker, but nope. I beat in the way that we both
okay, hang on. Funny thing is, I didn't beat Wind Waker on GameCube ever. I actually never beat the GameCube version, and I only ever beat it on Wii U. But God, it was funny because even on Wii U, it was like I got to the Triforce collection bits, and I was like, it's not gonna happen. I was like, I lost interest. Even though the Wii U one made it a lot easier, there was the part where I couldn't find a few of them, and I didn't comprehend when I was playing it, which this was like last year, so I should still be like, it still was me being dumb and stuff. I just wasn't really thinking, and I think I was also, some other game had just come out at the time where I was like kind of more into playing that or something, or it kind of got me out of the game for the most part. It wasn't really so much like, oh, I don't want to keep going forward in Wind Waker. It was more like, oh, this other thing's kind of distracting me. Plus, I'm in a part in Wind Waker that's really boring, so I just kind of got out of it. But then, like, this fall, actually, I picked it up, and I just beat it. Like, I just got the last 2 shards, and I beat it, and I was like, wow, that's a game I probably could play through again in probably half the time.
Yeah, after I got past the forest part in Wind Waker, I didn't so much get stuck on the Triforce part, I just didn't understand what I had to do, and in the time period that I was supposed to be collecting the Triforce pieces, I did, like, all of the... I hadn't done any side quests before then. I did all of the side quests I ever did in my first file during when I was supposed to be getting those Triforce pieces, because I didn't even know what I was supposed to do for the first, like, year that I was at that part. And then later I came back and I was, like, 11 or something, and I comprehended it.
It's funny, because Nintendo designs the Zelda games in such a particular way. Like...
Yeah.
I don't think children... It's not really for kids, honestly. Like,
yeah.
You have to be at least, like, 13, 14 to, like, kind of get how Zelda games are supposed to go. Cause
as a whole.
You have to understand, like you said it earlier, you have to understand the Zelda formula. You have to understand how this fucking game works, because otherwise you're just going to be like, so I just did that, and you're like, now what? Because like either one, you were paying attention to the dialogue, and then you just kind of like, you didn't try to pick up on the smaller details of what they were saying, you were just kind of like watching it.
Yeah.
And then you're like, you're done listening to what they're saying, and you're like, huh? You're like, what? What do I do now? And it's like, what were they just... And then you're like, crap, what were they just talking about?
That's why...
And then you just don't remember, and you're like, well, I guess I'll just wander around in Ordon Village for 600 years.
Having Midna in Twilight Princess, just being able to like summon her up anytime and have her give you a little blurb on where you needed to go, that was really helpful because the same thing happened in...
That's probably why I did so well in Twilight Princess.
The same mechanic existed in the Mega Man Battle Network series, which I had played a lot prior, so that was something I recognized immediately how to use, and from there on, like, I got a lot of the parts where I was stuck, where I just didn't know what to do in Twilight Princess were solved by Midna.
Which, I mean, they did have that mechanic in... actually, Wind Waker's the only game they didn't have that mechanic in. I mean, they kind of did with the King of Red Lions, but...
never remembered to talk to him.
But the King of Red Lions, Tattle, and Navi were all very cryptic. They just kind of tell you, like, you have to use the wind, or you have to sing the song, or you have to... And, like, half the time, even, like, Tattle wouldn't tell you, or Tattle or Navi would just be like, but what about that area? And you're like, you go to that area, and you're like...
Yeah.
What? And then you just kind of don't know. Where Twilight Princess was a bit more straightforward about it. It was like, maybe you should try this on this. And it's like...
Yeah, because Midna was more like... I almost feel like it's because it was in Midna's personality to treat you like more of an ignoramus.
Yeah. Which, it's funny, because when I was playing Twilight Princess again recently, this was before last summer. It was like sometime last year. It was around the time before, I think, Wind Waker HD came out or something. It was around that time. Around the time when I played Majora's Mask for the first time, legitimately. And I played Twilight Princess through. I kind of picked up, like, I was just thinking about it, like, the Wii generation of games, I felt like all of them were a bit more handholdy. Every single one of them. Except for Metroid Prime 3. Except for Metroid Prime 3. Because, goddamn it, though. I mean, that game still has some, like, little elements here and there that are a bit more handholdy than the previous two were.
Yeah.
Because especially in the beginning, it'll teach you how to play, but, like, far more in your face. It'll literally... Because I recently picked up Metroid Prime Trilogy for $10 on eShop. Anyways, we're sponsored, no, but I picked it up, and I played through both the first one and the second one, which was really fun. I guess we're transitioning to Metroid now, but... picked up the first two, really great games, and I was like, they kind of teach you a little bit just like generally how the combat mechanics work, but they don't really tell you that much. And then Metroid Prime 3, I played that one after I beat the first two, and like the beginning bit, they teach you, they literally stop the action sometimes and show controls on screen of what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And if you had just got done playing both Metroid Prime 1 and 2 with the same control scheme, it's like really redundant.
Yeah.
But obviously, like, you know, they didn't make the Trilogy Edition any different. They just imported the game.
And I do feel like, in terms of the less hand-holding in Prime 3 compared to other Nintendo Wii games, that was partly because it was a sequel. Because it was continuing a series that already had 2 installments in it. So
yeah,
the developers felt like they could get away with more... or less hand-holding.
Yeah, I generally think that just the Wii was like it's Nintendo's attempt to I think it's pretty obvious. It was their attempt to kind of create like more of a casual feel, but not like with Zelda. Obviously, they didn't totally go all out with that.
Yeah.
Twilight Princess still had some confusing shit that kids like us wouldn't have understood for a little while, but for the most part, it did help you along. But yeah, they did make it more in Midna's character to help you out more.
Yeah.
And be more demeaning because that's just how she was. Which I think her character is really funny, and I really like Midna.
Midna's my favorite Link follower character, Link side character, whatever you call it.
Yeah, same.
Mostly because she's more of a character than any of the other ones have ever been. Except, no, Fi's not really that much, no. Fi, they tried to do what they did with Midna with Fi, and it didn't really work.
Is it Fi or Fi?
I don't know, I've always said Fi. I didn't really like Fi that much after, like... at first, I liked her, and then I didn't like her, and then she grew on me, and now I'm ambivalent about her. My opinion of her has jumped around a lot. Skyward Sword in general, did you ever even play Skyward Sword?
No, I tried playing it I played it for like 20 minutes, and I got really bored, and I was like, this is just not fun at all. I was like, this doesn't... I didn't even get the sword, which I kind of feel bad. I should definitely give it another try, but I just can't get around to it.
I know exactly what, like... The beginning of Skyward Sword is extra slow, in my opinion, having replayed through it once. Having played through it in total twice. Because, I don't know, once you beat the first dungeon, then you get into, like, I don't know, something just clicked with me when I beat the first dungeon in Skyward Sword, and I got into the game.
Because it's certainly a lot different. I mean, from what I've heard, it's certainly a lot different. It's certainly a lot different than any other Zelda game, from what I've heard. I haven't...
Corey just sent out a tweet about me during this recording.
Yeah, you could probably look for it in like a week, because I don't know how long it'll be before I upload this. I might put some like gameplay footage too. I don't know. Anyway, so... yeah, like Skyward Sword. I don't know. I feel like I should give the game a chance, but I just kind of like. I think the only interesting thing about that game to me is the storyline. I just kind of want to like experience the story and then never pick it up again. The gameplay just doesn't look very fun. And I've heard it's just like really linear and just like. I'm just going off what I've heard though. I don't feel like it's that fair for me to just be like,
that's the thing I don't like about Skyward Sword is the gameplay is like. As a Zelda game, there are some really strong points, but the gameplay falls really short, and that is not good. But there were some really memorable environments and like portions of the story, in my opinion, that Skyward Sword had. I don't hate Skyward Sword like some people do, but
yeah, like
I don't know. Having a solidified opinion of it is hard compared to the other Zelda games because I've been meaning to go back and replay through it again, but I haven't. I've only played through it the once and a little bit of another time in hero mode, which is just not my... I don't want to do hero mode.
I guess we should talk about Ocarina of Time a bit, considering that's the Zelda game to create all other Zelda games practically.
All other 3D Zelda games.
Yeah, and like the whole series is like almost focused around the storyline of Ocarina of Time. It's kind of where everything came to be in terms of the timeline and everything. It seems like there's a lot of callbacks to Ocarina of Time versus just any other game.
Yeah.
Like Wind Waker, pretty much an entire callback to Ocarina of Time in that part.
In its lore.
Yeah.
Twilight Princess had a lot of direct, like, visual callbacks to Ocarina of Time.
Yeah, it was a very similar, everything was, like, similar, pretty much. Twilight Princess kind of was, like, the closest thing to, like, Ocarina of Time if it was remade completely. Yeah. And still trying to be its own thing, kind of, because it's the same locales, but just done differently and designed differently, and
different dungeons.
Yeah, like, I'm just saying, like, because it's like Death Mountain.
It's the same Hyrule, though.
Yeah, it's the same, basically, Hyrule, which, you know...
Isn't the case for all of the games.
Yeah. I guess if there's another thing to praise Majora's Mask about, no, but it's not in Hyrule, but, I'm just trying to think, because, like, I've always been a big... I've played Link Between Worlds. I've played Link to the Past very briefly when I was younger. Never got into Link to the Past very much. Link Between Worlds is really great, which has made me kind of interested in playing Link to the Past, but Link Between Worlds is still not better than any 3D Zelda game to me.
I actually... I had forgotten about this before now. Minish Cap for Game Boy Advance.
Oh, yeah.
That was actually the game that got me more into Zelda than Wind Waker. Because I owned Wind Waker at the time, but before Twilight Princess came out, I had played through... I think I actually had beaten Minish Cap before Twilight Princess came out. And that was what solidified me into, like... That was why I bought Twilight Princess and why I went back to Zelda games. Because Minish Cap was sort of actually the Zelda game that solidified me being interested in Zelda, even though it was a 2D one, not a 3D one.
Right.
Which I guess we could have that debate, but Ego Raptor already made a video on it, so let's just leave it to him.
Well, he tries to explain why
2D is better, I guess.
Yeah, why the top-down facing games are better designed.
Yeah.
Than the 3D ones.